You've watched enough wealth tips, so why aren't you actually doing them? I don't know how many times when I've been scrolling online and seeing different tips. Oh, you need to do these five top things to build wealth. You need to do these five things to improve your investment. You need to do these five things to reduce your debt. It just goes on and on and on. But yet, but the number one reason is still people are stressed about money. So where's the disconnect? By the way, I'm Carolyn, a money coach with 25 years of experience in finance, just uncovering and talking about the things most people avoid. So let's take a look at what the top tips are. The first thing is live below your means. Absolutely an amazing tip. You make a certain amount of income, you live below it. It's pretty straightforward. Some of the reasons why people kind of steer away from this is probably lifestyle inflation, right? You make a little bit more, then you spend even more. You make a little bit more, you spend even more. And all of a sudden, we're out of balance. We're not living under our means, we're living above it. I'll never forget, you get a raise and you are so excited about the raise or the promotion or whatever, and you go to celebrate. And you may go to a little bit nicer restaurant. And what happens? The cost of that meal is probably more than what your increase will be on the next pay. I almost guarantee it. It's like you are so excited about making that little bit more that you go and you spend even more. And that's what happens with lifestyle inflation. You want the nicer car, the nicer house, the nicer this, that, and it just keeps going. Another tip that a lot of people talk about is invest early and continuously. Again, great tip. If we all started back in our 20s or our teens, we'd all be laughing right now. But that doesn't mean that you don't start, right? Whether you're in your 30s, your 40s, and even in your 50s, it really doesn't stop you from starting and creating an investment and creating a savings plan and continuing on with it. Because there's going to come a time when your income is maybe not matching exactly your lifestyle, and those savings are going to come in handy. They talk about investing automatically every month, right? Set it and forget it. Pick a dollar amount and automatically put it into an investment and just stop thinking about it. Whether it goes up or whether it goes down, you know what to do. And then one of the other things that is a very common tip is to don't time the market. Just let it be, right? Over time, the market is always going to end up going like this. If you look at the example of an S&P 500, go back to, I don't know, the year 2000 and start there and work your way up to the year 2026. It's guaranteed to kind of go up in scale. All right, and the next tip is that they always talk about is to build multiple income streams. So now, if we're talking about my generation, a lot of us, we kind of grew up with the one job fits all thing, right? You get into a good, decent job and you kind of stay there for like an X amount of time. And, maybe it may change maybe every 10, 15 years, but longevity was the key, right? Nowadays, it's kind of hard to find that. It's kind of hard to, and you don't even want it because you want to keep changing and evolving, right? So this is why it's important to have something else kind of going on in the background, because your income is dependent on an employer. But self-made income isn't. It's dependent on your own hustle. So whether it is a side hustle, a passion that you love to do, or creating a digital product, becoming a creator, influencer, marketing, all these things that are new, right, to society, yeah, it's another way to make money. Then there's real estate, investment, freelancing, if you have a skill that you can contract out, and even just your dividends that are coming off of your investments. All ways to bring in money that doesn't require you to work a 9 to 5. The next tip that is very commonly talked about is automating your finances. I know, and I do speak of this quite often as well. It's really easy when you set something in place and it just kind of operates without you having to think about it. A lot of people avoid money because it feels heavy. It feels like, oh my God, I have to open my bank account. I don't know what's in there, what's going on, right? You have bills that are piling up on your desk. The idea is to set a plan in motion and then don't have to worry about it again. It is so freeing. I can't tell you enough times how freeing it is to lift off that weight off your chest when you put a plan in place and you know that it's working for you. So whether that be your saving, your investing, your bill payments, set them up automatically. It really removes the need for constant motivation and decision making. And the next tip is avoiding high interest debt. And what does that mean? Your credit cards, right? 20%, 24%, 26%, all those credit cards are running around that level. Now, if you are a person that uses credit cards and pays them off at the end of the month, then I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people that carry a balance every month, may only pay the minimum payment, try and put a little bit here, a little bit there, and you're kind of scurrying between one and the other. This is where you want to start to avoid this type of debt. One thing that really gets people is that buy now, pay later cycle. And there's a lot of companies that are doing it now. Afterpay is one of them, where it's so easy, right? You want to get into this thing, you want to purchase it, you don't have the cash on hand, and you figure, hey, I'm just going to buy it now, and then I'll worry about the payments later. But have you even checked your budget? Can you even afford that in your budget? That another monthly payment? Is it possible even for you? So, it's a matter of, don't just jump. Do some assessment work beforehand. Yes, zero interest is great, but what's going to happen a year from now if you're in the exact same position? The payments start coming in, you don't have any more extra income, it becomes a problem. All right, and then the final one that I see all the time is increase your financial literacy. Now, I think I'm preaching to the choir on this one, because if you're watching my video, then you want to improve your financial literacy. But the idea is that you want to learn as much as you can. We were not taught this stuff in school, right? We weren't taught how to balance our bank account. We weren't taught about credit. We weren't taught about compounding interest. We weren't taught all these things. We had to learn by accident. If you're lucky, you had parents that taught you what to do. And if not, it was just really you against the world. Now for what I really want to get to. So those are all kind of the top tips that you hear when you're scrolling online. You're hearing all these, wealthy people give you advice. But why aren't people following it? That's the real question. One of the reasons is that wealth requires delayed gratification. And delayed gratification is not something that we're used to. In this time that we're in, instant gratification is what we want. We want things, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to get me this thing, right? You see online, people are going on trips, they're traveling, they're doing this, and this. And so a long-term savings plan, that's boring. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to go on my trip right now. And that is what's preventing people for building long-term wealth, because they want everything right now, and delayed gratification is not fun. And it's not your fault. It's the dopamine that you get. The dopamine you get from seeing other people on trips. It's like, oh my goodness. Or if you see a sale and it's like, oh, it's affordable. Why don't I just jump on it? It's not your fault, right? Things are put in your face to be able to fulfill that instant gratification. And so if we're preaching, if the wealth investors are saying, just take your time, you're going to see the market go up. Who has time for 10 to 15 years to wait? So that's why stress spending happens, emotional spending happens, impulsive spending happens, lifestyle inflation happens, right? It's all due to this instant gratification that we all seek. So if you can get your mind past that, if you can get your mind past the instant and look towards the long-term building, you are going to be better off, right? Consistency, building something that lasts. That's what's important. Now, if we look at that tip about automation, that is going to require you to set up a system. And which means that you're going to have to log into your bank account. You're going to have to know what your bills are. You're going to have to know what your debt is, how much interest you're paying, how much you need to save, how much you can afford to save, if you are even making enough money. These are all questions that you need to be answered before you even set up a system like that. So it's easy for people to say, oh, just go and set up a system, make it automated, right? But if you don't know the answers to those questions, then how can you even go about doing that? So it's kind of a catch-22. What happens is you go log in, you start opening your bills, and then all of a sudden that weight that I was talking about, it gets heavy. And it feels like, things are becoming overwhelming, and you don't know how you're going to get out of the situation that you're currently in. And that prevents you from really making the plans and taking the steps that you need to really get out. You kind of have to change, and that's where that mindset piece comes in, right? It's it's thinking to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to do one thing. I know that there's all these tips and I know there's all this advice and I know the knowledge of what I need to do. But if I do one thing and make a difference and make a change, for example, creating a money date with yourself or your partner too, and you say, okay, on the third Monday of every month, we are going to open the bank account, we're going to check out all our bills, and we're going to see where we are at. That's it. You're not going to put anything in motion, no planning, no nothing. You're just going to open it all up and maybe even write things down, and just see where you're at. First step, right? Baby steps. And then every month, maybe there's a little bit more that you can add to it. So the overwhelm becomes a little bit less. It doesn't feel as scary. It doesn't feel like you are avoiding the situation. So you don't have to really stay stuck financially. Changing your mindset really helps to break that avoidance and not wanting to do anything when it comes to money. So the next thing that really prevents us from really taking steps forward is that lifestyle inflation that I was talking about earlier. Social media has really made it very difficult for people to be happy with what they have. Luxuries, lifestyles, the overnight success stories that we see, those extreme investing wins, and really the unrealistic entrepreneurial stories. All of that is displayed online, easy for us to access. And when we see that, it creates a pressure. It creates a pressure to do more or do nothing. So people either feel hopelessly behind or they start to chase these risky shortcuts. Because again, we're trying to achieve short-term gains. And if we look at even gambling, right? Gambling is a massive industry. And the reason why it's such a massive industry is because people love quick wins, right? They want quick wins and they figure that the odds are in their favor. And maybe even if they're not, they're still going to try because maybe there's a possibility that I can get out of this current situation that I'm in. And I'm not saying that investing in those things are like gambling, but people are looking for the risky, quick wins. And that in itself can set you back, right? Because maybe you have some savings that you were building and now it's not growing fast enough. I'm going to take out these savings that I've been slowly building, and then I'm going to take that tip that Wendy gave me across the hall that I should be investing in this particular stock. I'm going to throw it all in there and see what happens, right? Hopefully I will, make it big on that. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, right? But it's a risky investment that you haven't done the research and you haven't kind of put more thought into. And there goes that savings. And then another reason why we're not following those tips that I already talked about is consistency is also super boring, right? So doing the same things over and over and over again, it's boring. People want change. And again, I'm not saying that you should live this boring straight line life because we have 4 seasons in where I live, right? In Canada. So we have spring, we have fall, we have winter, we have summer. And to be honest, great times to change things up, right? Our seasons give us a perfect time to change things up, the way we are investing, the way we are saving, what our priorities are, and so we don't have to always keep a straight line, right? We can change it up. It's okay. And, those changes can actually propel us forward. So, for example, if you take the seasons, I would say winter, maybe fall, winter, somewhere in between there, we tend to spend a little bit less. And the reason for that is because we're not going out as much. Maybe we're not entertaining as much. It's getting colder, the weather may be a factor, and so we're kind of inside a lot more. And if you know that that is your habit, then take the time to prepare more food, right? You prepare more food, you don't take out as much, and that way, that is a season of saving. So you create the bigger savings plans maybe during that period of time because, again, you don't really feel like going out. It's not like something that you're interested in doing at the moment. And then you shift over to summer. And summer, especially here in Canada, we're like, yay, it's summer. And so we're out every weekend. We're, at the barbecues. We're going, we want a patio. We want to go for drinks. Like it's just a more social time. And so that is a spending period, right? And so we want to expand our budget a little bit to allow for that because that's life, right? We want to have some fun. And perhaps there's traveling that happens within there. Maybe in the spring we do traveling. So, then our budget changes, shifts differently over here. So consistency does not have to mean it's boring, but we don't need to change it up every pay, right? We can have a plan that kind of goes across the board and just shifts and evolves over the seasons. And, your age, right? Your age is going to make things different too. In your 20s, it's a lot different. You're making a little bit less money. You're just figuring out how to create a budget at that point. You move into your 30s, you're making a little bit more money, but there's more responsibilities that come along with it. Rent, kids, all the things, right? And then 40s. Every season has its thing. So it doesn't mean that consistency has to be boring because your life evolves and so do you. One thing I read off of Reddit one time was there was no money to be made in telling people to do nothing. And I thought that was a really good statement because if people were to give you advice, just hold it. Just keep it the same. You're going to make money eventually. Would anybody really listen to that? I thought that was great advice. Now, the next reason that we kind of fall off of some of these saving tips or wealth tips is because we confuse motivation with building a system. Now, what do I mean by that? Every so often, we get this wave of energy, right? And the energy is, I'm going to create a budget and I'm going to create a savings. I'm going to put $50 every month in a bank account and I'm going to get my life in order. It usually kind of happens on January 1st, right? We want to reset everything so that, you're all motivated, you're pumped, you're ready to go. You've listened to all the podcasts, right? And what happens when that motivation starts to fade? Right? You haven't really created the system. The system is creating auto transfers, moving things into your account without you even think about happening. It's creating investing rules, maybe a top, a ceiling, and a bottom out, right? Keep within this range and don't move, right? And you can invest wherever you want within this range. This is an investing rule that you can create for yourself. Or if you're a spender, kind of like me, then you may want to put some boundaries in place, right? Okay, this is the amount of money that I'm going to set aside for spending. Again, we are in the summer season, so, maybe new wardrobe, things like that. I'm going to set aside X amount for that, and I cannot go beyond that. Because I find a lot of the times people create these savings accounts and they put money into it, and then as soon as the next sale happens, now again, I'm talking to spenders, then as soon as the next sale happens, they're just transferring that money out of that savings account and they're just going ahead and spending online. And so it kind of keeps going on and on that way. But what you want to do is just create boundaries for yourself, right? Because you have goals. You have goals that you want and you want to reach. So why break those rules? And like I said, creating those recurring routines like a money date or a strategy session or some time where you can create a vision board, all these kind of fun things that you can do to make those goals come to life, right? They're not just something that you wish for. It's not actually an action plan that you have to execute. And now this is a little bit deeper reason why we are not succeeding when it comes to our money. And it has a lot to do with our identity. So the final thing I wanted to address is that financial advice sometimes removes the identity part of it. It is not always a one-size-fits-all for everyone. So if you're asking the question, how do I build wealth? Sometimes financial advice, it really ignores the identity of a person. Am I the type of person that can even obtain wealth? Can I trust myself with money? What if I fail again? I try all these things and I fail. What if wealth changes who I am? What if I never catch up? These emotional narratives are what's going through all of our minds. So if this is something that you are struggling with, then you're in the right place, because I'm going to be talking more about these types of conversations that we should be having, dealing with the psychology of money. Great book, by the way. I'll reference it in the notes below. Looking at our identity when it comes to money. What is your personality when it comes to money? Maybe it's your lived experience that's causing some friction with building wealth. Or are you really being emotionally honest with yourself? I think that the internet is trying to convince people that you can build wealth through these hacks. But most of the time, wealth is built through emotional resonance, consistency, patience, and honesty. So I think more people would succeed financially if we stop treating money struggles like moral failures. I really encourage you to think about some of these things and open up a conversation. I would love to chat with you and build this community where it's safe to talk about these struggles that we're having, so we can all build together. So if this resonated, tell me the belief or the money habit that you're trying to unlearn right now, because I really do think that more people are carrying this quietly, more than we realize. And if you want more conversations like this, the kind that most people avoid, make sure to subscribe, because we're going to be going a lot deeper.